All right.
Now recording.
Now recording. All right. Yeah, we're live on OBS and Craig.
So I figure what we should do, and this should just be a structure in general, is we do an initial non-spoiler review, right?
Okay.
And then we go, all right, this is a spoiler review, and then we do the spoiler review.
I guess. I mean, it is a fairly recent book, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and then who knows, right? Like
2014.
maybe people are just interested, and then that's how it works, right? All right, this is
Yeah.
a non-spoiler, and we talk about it, and if people are interested, we go, all right, now let's do a spoiler review for those that have read it and stuff like that.
Okay. Well,
Probably
I just
a
like
better
to open up, if you're going to do the audiobook, if you're like me, you probably want to listen to it at 1.6 speed because the narrator is fucking slow. That was my only gripe with the entire fucking audiobook.
We didn't even
Sure,
start.
you could,
I didn't even have
Spoilers.
that problem.
Yeah,
He read it, and I was like, he's got a cool
It
accent.
was too slow. I'm just saying he read too slow, so I had to put it to 1.6 speed.
I did listen to the whole thing at 1.25 speed, and I didn't really notice it being that much faster.
Burger, why are you in space?
Because
I'm on Mars. Can't you tell?
well, it actually looks like Mars is in the back. Are you like on a moon?
I think you're
of
on Luna.
Mars?
Yeah, I think you're more on
I'm
Luna
so-
than looking at
I don't
Mars.
care. All right.
God, know your planets.
I'm pretty sure Mars wouldn't look that big in the background if he was on Luna.
Dude, just trying to figure something out, bro.
It's the atmosphere that's red.
Does Mars
Yeah.
have
It's got-
any satellites? By satellites, I mean moons.
Yes, it has 2 moons.
There you go. So maybe he's on one of those.
There you go.
Chris,
could
I
be
like your
lying on my
headband.
ass
Thank
there.
you. Thank you. Have
You
you
look like you're about to go do some yard work on your tomatoes.
like my Mars emblem?
Oh yeah, it's
Fucking
cool.
nerd.
Or my
It does have 2 moons. All right.
Howler face
Phobos
mask?
and Deimos.
Wow, dude, how much shit did you buy?
Dude, where'd you get all this cool stuff?
Well, Pierce Brown, so I follow him on Instagram, and they announced they're doing bandanas because of COVID and stuff. So they did a black and red, and a white and red one. So I got 2 black and red ones. One
So
for
heads
Caleb.
up for our listeners, Pierce Brown is the
That's
author
awesome.
of the book.
Oh, we started, huh?
Yeah, dude, we started when I said we started.
Just because Craig is whatever.
Now
I
we're
said we were
recording.
live on both Craig and
Howdy,
OBS.
boys and girls. Welcome back to Casual Outlaws.
Yeah.
Mike Goodman.
Just woke up. Now we're gonna be talking about some books.
Books.
I suggest
Talking
we all have a
about them
beer,
books,
but
books.
apparently no one else is doing that.
With casual outlaws.
There, you got a song. You wanted a song in the intro. Now you have a song.
Yeah, you gotta have it like kind of like a reading rainbow thing.
Dude,
With a little hand.
Of course, it's me and Chris that are the stupid ones.
you guys are definitely brothers. All right, so, Chris, since this was your election,
Pick?
yeah.
All right. This week on Casual Outlaws, we read Red Rising by Pierce Brown. And to do a quick, I guess, summary of it or whatever, non-spoilers, is essentially the setting is this time. It's like, would you even say it's like semi-dystopian in a way?
Oh,
I believe
depending
it's listed
on your
as
cast.
dystopian,
Depend on-
but it's
Depending
not.
on your
where-
cast.
Where in the society you stand. So the world is split up in tiers, right? Like there's a caste system, and it's called the society, and the top tier are the golds and the bottom tier are the reds, and that's pretty much and then there's a bunch of colors. Everything's done by colors all in between, and each color has their own role based on eugenics also. And the story is it's a first person view of a character named Darrow, and he is a red, and
He's a lower red.
whoa, spoilers.
Barely
And,
a spoiler. Barely a spoiler.
Some tragic shit happens to him as a red, and he comes to find out
Got to break the chains.
yeah, break the chain. So essentially reds mostly live on Mars, and they're tasked with mining Mars for helium as an energy source.
Helium-3.
And the gold sent them there as pioneers to farm and off the sweat of their backs, they would
Help society.
terraform Mars, and then they could come to the surface and live on the surface and prosper and bear, reap the rewards of their hard work. Hundreds of years go by, nothing happens. Darrow, tragic shit happens. He finds out it's all a lie. Mars has been terraformed, and essentially they're used as
Slave labor.
slave labor. And that's pretty much the premise. And it's him rising through, like coming out and then starting a revolution, essentially. That part doesn't really happen in this book, but you
get the gist of it.
Yeah.
It's in the title, Red Rising.
So
fucking great book.
Well, it's about a single red rising to a higher station, basically.
Yeah.
Well, it is Red Rising, not Red's Rising.
Yeah. So
Thanks, Andy.
That's the basic
Red
premise of the book.
Red Rover, gonna rise on over.
How about we just give everyone's our how we enjoyed the book, didn't enjoy the book without spoilers, and then we'll do a spoiler review.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I did it. I listened to all of it in one sitting, which was made easier by listening at 1.6 speed. But no, I would really just trying to bite at the bit and keep from going into book 2 just in case we elect it for another episode.
Yeah.
I haven't done.
How many books are there in the series?
So far, there's 5, and
He's
the
working
6th
on
one is.
Oh wow! Okay,
Yeah.
I was thinking there was
It's an
only 2
original
or 3.
trilogy, and then they like something happens in the 3rd book, and then there's the second half of the trilogy is like following sort of a different set
Multiple
of people, but
characters,
Darrow's
yep.
still involved.
Yep.
Mm.
Yeah. You would have to read the books without spoilers
Yeah.
to understand why they did that, but yeah.
But I think the last time that I've treated a book like this where I would sit down and just listen to the whole thing in one sitting was Dresden Files, where I was just like, I can't wait to get to the next book.
I was the same way. In fact, I was actually the first 3 books of Dresden Files, I didn't have that feeling.
Yeah, once you get past book 3 is when it really picks up.
Yeah.
I think book 2 is when I started really getting into it.
Dresden Files.
What?
Yeah.
Burger, what did you think about the book?
The book was okay. I found the book to be very derivative. If you read Ender's Game, Hunger Games, Harry Potter, you can pretty much form this whole book in your head. It'll all be there.
I would say I agree with that. It's actually very simple. These are all tropes that have been done before. I think what this book especially does best is it does those tropes really well comparatively. So I think
they're
the way the author writes. I thought the way the author writes is really nice, and
you like the prose basically.
Yeah, and the characters are I like the characters, even the not so good characters. I still like them.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that other people have made that same observation as you, because one of the covers of the book basically says Ender, Katniss, and now Darrow. So those were 2 of the books you mentioned, right? Ender's Game and Hunger Games?
Yeah, Hunger Games. I don't know. I disagree that it does it exceptionally well. I think it does it very solid. I think it's a very good sort of freshman effort from this writer. But there were a lot of shortcuts taken in terms of the writing, in terms of using sexual violence in order to create somebody to be a bad person. It's used 3 different times throughout this book, and it's a very shorthand, sort of repetitive structure. As well as our character, he seems to sort of condone the society that he's in. He's pro the society he's in. His only real beef is that the people who are in charge of the society, he wants to kill them all. He doesn't seem to really have a specific critique going on throughout the book.
Should we go ahead and say that we're getting into spoilers already?
A little bit.
No, let's get some spoilers.
I do have because I have the context of the further books and stuff, right? I have the knowledge of what the other books are. I do agree with that, but that's the point of Darrow at this point of the book, is to have that viewpoint. Right?
I just think that our main character can feel very one-dimensional throughout parts of this book, and sort of seems to lack any true agency to himself. And that's fine, because it feels like there's potential for expanding upon it later.
Mm-hmm.
But if you were to read this book standalone, there's a lot of very troubling themes that take place in this book that as a standalone I don't necessarily think I could recommend it unless you're looking for like a decent sci-fi book.
Well, people are looking for a fucking series, Burger. God.
But
Yeah,
I
would,
think
I would say if you haven't read Ender's Game, go read Ender's Game instead.
I
That would be
think
my recommendation.
I think maybe the reason why this character comes off across as one-dimensional is because that is kind of the product
what
of his
drives him.
nature. That's the product of his nature. Like the entire thing about the Reds is that they've been led to believe one thing and that's it. And they are so oppressed that this is just their attitude. He's acting exactly like his one-dimensional characterization that once he starts to evolve, like you clearly see it. Like that's what he was basically forced into.
All right.
I see him. Yeah.
So
I don't
Okay,
see
let me tell my part.
let Nate go, and then we'll go into spoilers.
Nate hasn't
Yeah,
got.
then we'll
Yeah.
go into spoilers. Okay, so like Ender's Game, Hunger's Game, Harry Potter, any kind of space sci-fi. What did I say?
Hunger's Game.
You
Doesn't
said
matter.
Hunger's
Hunger's
Game.
Oh, burrito, so delicious.
Oh, Hunger. Ender's Game. Hunger's Game. I think if you're a fan of those kind of books, this is you're gonna like it. I think it's a good series to get into. I think it's a standalone book. It still had me excited at the end. Like it got me like, oh, that was a fun read. And it definitely had a few aspects in the book that like I did not expect, which I will talk about in the spoilers.
Yeah.
But I think it was a great book. I think people into that kind of Hunger Games, Harry Potter, space, a little bit of I don't know if it had magic in it. No.
It's just because they tie in a lot of like
High technology.
There's
like
a lot of
Roman
black boxes
mythology
where
and
the
stuff like
science-
that.
Yeah, maybe that's why I'm thinking about it.
There's a lot of black boxes where like the specifics of what's happening aren't important. Just know that they have some sci-fi weapon that's pretty cool,
Yeah.
and you can keep moving forward.
Yeah. Again, it's like that little suspension of disbelief, right? You're just like, okay.
Yeah.
But it was good and had a few aspects that I didn't expect, but I did enjoy.
Yeah.
An all good book.
So we can get into spoilers now then?
Spoiler territory. And this is where like
Pax
thing will come up.
out
Yeah.
Talamanos.
Pax was great. I was so
Dude,
sad
I
when Pax
fucking love
died.
him so much.
Oh my god.
Pax out Talamanos. He was great. One of my favorite characters.
Oh, by far. By far.
Him and the wolf guy. Him and Severo. Yeah. They were fucking great.
So let's talk about Darrow for a little bit since he's the prime character.
So one of the things I noticed like way back in like chapter 10 is that he's talking about how he's like he can do all these things in his head like really easily, and he's like his fingers are super dexterous, especially for only having someone with 10 fingers as opposed to like the artists who have like 12 fingers, etc.
Mhm.
And I was thinking about it, it's like the book said, if I remember correctly, the book's saying it's only been like 500. It's been just
700 years. I
yeah,
believe.
like 500 to 700 years since they've set up this whole society. And I was like, evolution, I don't believe goes.
I don't think they evolved.
So eugenics
Well,
plays heavily,
Yeah,
and they
but-
carve the different colors.
Yeah, but that's the thing. What I want to mention is that like the guy who is responsible for being able to do crazy manipulations to bodies, he's completely in disbelief that Darrow is capable of these things. And I'm looking back at it and I'm thinking like, all right, so they've made them like this, but apparently they've continued to evolve, but in such a short period of time. But then I was remembering that apparently the Reds don't live very long because of their environment. They either die in the mining because of the pit vipers, or they are executed, etc. So they only live. I think his dad died in his 20s.
Yeah, but he got hung.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. But what I'm saying is like, his dad died young. A lot of them die young. His uncle's considered an old man. He's in his 40s.
Mhm.
So it's like, yes, it's not been a lot of time, but so many generations have gone through just because of the fact that they marry young, they have kids young, they die young.
Yeah.
So I guess that's and then the ones who end up surviving and can actually procreate tend to be the ones that I guess have the characteristics and the features and mutations that would actually carry on and make this subspecies of human or whatever the hell you want to call the society much more advanced than they thought they would ever be.
Yeah. Well, they
I think
right.
it's a little bit of that, and they try and sell you this mythos that because he's a hair diver, that, like, because he faces extremes on the daily, he's been training his mind the whole
Well,
time. He
the
has to
other
do all these
thing,
calculations on the fly.
it's not just being a hell diver, but apparently being a hell diver is something that kind of runs in his family. His uncle was a hell diver. I think his dad was also a hell diver. So it might just be traits that have kind of been bred into his family line. Another thing I noticed also is he mentions that the I can't remember Mickey, the guy who does the operations on him. He mentions that the pit viper venom was never sucked out. In fact, it doesn't do anything if they try to suck it out. In fact, it just made his heart stronger. But the person who tried to suck it out of him was his uncle, which kind of leads me to believe that his uncle believes this myth because he's put it into practice before on someone that he knows, whether it be his brother, himself, etc. So it might actually be, again, a trait of that family line, that they are not as susceptible to this venom as other Reds would be.
Yeah, so they're just outliers within the red community.
Exactly.
Whenever they talked about his finger dexterity, I just imagine him like playing with his fingers and then like going fucking backwards. I'm just like, dude, this guy's got fucking hands, man.
This guy's got hands.
I feel like
Every
the
time they
uncle-
started talking about it, I was like, don't make him throw those hands.
I feel like the uncle's supposed to be like a throwaway, or not a throwaway.
He might
what
come
the
back.
term I'm looking for is, like, yeah, he's a false lead. I think he might. If this book was really boring in my head, if it was really boring, the uncle would be the leader of the rebellion, or whatever. Like, what was the name of the guy that they kept trying to say is their leader?
Ares.
Ares. Yeah, yeah. I think if this book was really boring, the uncle would actually have been Ares the whole time.
Well, it sounds like he has some kind of involvement with them.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
In the past.
like a correspondent who finds out information, but he's just a drunk, you know.
Yeah, that's what it's supposed to be. And then so like because I disagree with what you were saying earlier, where there's a lot of things, or I guess I can't disagree with you saying that you were surprised by a lot of things, but I found a bunch of different things throughout the book to be fairly predictable.
Oh, there was definitely like the moment he walks into Mickey's place and they mentioned the little puzzle cube that he's working on. So like, okay, he's going to solve that. And then as soon as they put the box down and they open, I was like, what's going to be in there? It's going to be some higher cast. I know it. So there was definitely predictable things.
And so I think,
but in a way that was good because you already know what direction it's going at, and I don't think they don't care if that's predictable or not because they care about just getting to the next portion of when he's going to be in the mindset of character building,
and the world building,
his situation, learning about his new situation, and I thought that was
you definitely see him grow as a
cool. We carved him. Let's get him into the next thing, and now you're in the next thing, and they're just like, okay, now he's in this situation, telling you about all these new things that he's seeing and experiencing. I thought that's what they were just trying to get to.
I don't think he tries to hide that stuff. Like we know what's going to happen. Like in part one with EO, like something bad's going to happen to EO.
Yeah,
right. Like you just know, right? It's so we are like, and like storytelling's been around for so long, like you can kind of predict a lot of beats. So you just kind of go like, how is he going to sell it? What is the emotional push?
Thank you for reminding me about the first part of the book, because part two, where they get to the point where the big lie is revealed, where like Mars has already been terraformed, it's already a paradise for pretty much everyone else. That reminded me so much of the movie Moon from 2009, which again, if you guys haven't seen it, spoilers. It's about an astronaut who's doing a 3-year contract stint on the moon, mining helium-3 for energy efforts back on Earth. As his contract is basically coming to an end, he starts to kind of see things. He's not feeling well, all that stuff. Well, what happens is he gets in an accident, and the station has an AI, and it believes that he died in the accident. So it actually just pulls out a clone of him. Turns out that he's like probably the 30th one that they've used, and there's multiple clones of him on the moon. And he just believes that he's the first one.
Wait a minute, is this the Will Smith movie?
No, this is a movie with Sam Rockwell, and unfortunately, Kevin Spacey voices the AI on the station. But anyway, the original clone doesn't die. He actually gets found by the one that's been thawed out, and they work together to actually get off of the moon and return to Earth and kind of expose this thing where this company has basically been cloning this guy and using him as slave labor for decades.
Yeah, So, I mean, yeah, that's definitely reminds me of like how they like create many
Well,
different
Red Rising
copies
did it better.
of this subterranean society where the Gammas always win kind of thing, and they have a whole
Mhm.
bunch of them all throughout Mars.
Yeah.
Essentially,
My only issue with this sort of premise of the book, and this is something that always annoys me about these caste systems in the future, is like I don't understand how this wouldn't have just been automated at this point. Like that's always this thing that
Everyone fears AI, man.
Yeah, man.
I guess,
No
but
one wants
there's
to
no
go to war
mention
with
of it in this
synthetics.
book
fears
at all.
AI. Everyone fears AI.
There's no
Synthetics are
fun.
There's a difference
cold-blooded.
between automation and AI.
Every
Like
once in a while, you want to hang a bitch.
To
You
set
don't
the
get
tone.
that with AI.
You want
guess,
them to know. I 100% get where you're going. I 100% get where you're going. You're
I mean,
absolutely right.
There's still slave labor in the modern era now. It's kind of probably just human, the human condition where they just want to subjugate other people.
Yeah, but if we look at like mining on Earth, like what would have been multiple thousands of people are working are like 4 dudes and some of the biggest fucking trucks and rigs you've ever seen, and just a bunch of explosives. Like this sort of and they can just take apart whole mountaintops.
Well,
And this sort of
I think they
random
mentioned
conspiracy to control 1 billion people of a specific caste to mine underground. It just seems like it's for such a sufficiently advanced society. It seems like so much more work than to just create a mining robot.
well,
Yeah.
I mean, it could also just be that one. I think in the first part they also mentioned that there's pockets of this gas that's highly volatile that will basically make the helium-3 inert if it goes off. So
Great.
they can't just
You know
use
what's
they
really
can't
good
use
at doing
explosives.
things like that? Robots.
Yeah, but guess what? Maybe it wasn't really good at doing it when they first started doing this, and they kind of just like, hey, let's keep the Reds doing it. We've got them subjugated.
They have a
We
whole
good at
cast of
doing
science
at it.
people whose job would be to figure
Why
that
we got
shit
such a
out.
problem at doing at it?
Instead, they got their science people figuring out how to create Johnny Ten Dicks and the
Johnny
lady with 1,000
Ten
boobs.
He only has 9 dicks. How can we give him 10?
Yeah, like I don't understand what you're.
Penis on him.
And they must have the same dexterity of his
If
fingers.
this helium-3 is so critical to your expansion of your society, right? Like, why would you have a bunch of
Dude, maybe they're just having fun treating people bad.
Yeah, it kind of seems
That's
like the Golds are
Kind of
That's
evil
not
people
dicks.
evil people do evil shit. You know?
Oh.
It seems like the Golds are just like, oh, I'm the prettiest. I'm the
yeah,
strongest.
they're kind of dicks.
I'm going to hurt you. Like they're full of themselves, and I got that, and I got that they don't care about society. They like hurting them. They like using people. I think that's the premise he was setting it up for.
I found
I
it.
get your point.
This is no different than my view of Dune. Like, why would you do what you did to get
Yeah,
to kill that family? It makes no sense for the amount of
But
cost
they
it
just
takes,
wanted to.
right? It's just a way to get the story going. I guess.
just feel like it should be explained about why this was happening. Like, why would you do this?
I honestly can't remember in the other books because, like, the other books they build on the world, right? The world building, right? Right now,
Yeah.
like in the first book, you guys are getting like a very glass view of like even what the golds are, right? You just know you learn more about like how the golds initiate more golds into the greater society of the gold, right? The young into adulthood, but you don't really understand how it's run, right? Because there's multiple worlds that are populated and terraformed, and there's different houses and
Well, it
factions.
seems very feudal.
That's one thing too. Did Darrow ever go into the whole mindset of him thinking about like, hey, are these other planets terraformed?
No,
And
no.
who's mining them?
So
Well,
go
they
back to what
told them
Bert-
they're terraformed.
Huh?
they told them they're
They told them
terraformed,
they were terraformed.
but
Yeah,
he's never
yeah.
seen it or anything, right?
but not all of them are
Yeah.
terraformed.
Okay.
There's still a few places
I
that
forgot
they're,
about that.
still-
So,
still
he
in the
doesn't
Pluto's
know
like
that
the
all
only one
these
that
other
hasn't been
planets-
terraformed.
Yeah.
Is what they were
Okay.
saying. Pluto was like still mid terraformed.
Yeah.
Or something like
Speaking
that.
of Pluto, I find it interesting that the Jackal are kind
Did
of
you hear what happened to Pluto?
it's messed up.
It's messed up.
Messed up, man.
Did you finally finish watching Psych, by the
Yeah.
way? So now you like it. Now you like it.
Move along.
Okay, what's interesting about the Jackal being from Pluto?
Well, no, that he's part of the House Pluto. Is that Pluto? I think the Roman name for Pluto, one of the Roman names for Pluto was Dispater, which means rich father, and his father was pulling strings. with his money.
Okay, that's actually a very clever thing if that was intentional. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
I don't know if it was intentional,
the
but
writer does stuff like that about like simple stuff like the name of the golds, right? Pax Ao Talamanos. Ao is the periodic
Pax
symbol for gold.
Ao
So all the
Talamanos.
golds have Ao in their name because they're golds.
Yeah.
Every time
I think the
his name is-
silvers also have the same thing. The silvers have this similar
Interesting.
thing also. Yeah.
I want to get a fucking shirt with just a guy with this holding this fucking spear up, screaming that.
you mean his
Just
axe?
all
Wasn't
over
it
the
an
shirt.
axe?
It was an axe, and then he had like this axe broke, and then he had like that weird pike that had like the weird thing on it.
Either way,
that
just
they
some
said.
giant guy on your shirt just yelling
Dude,
out.
just some fucking giant dude. Pax rocked. I was so sad when he got killed.
Yeah.
But
It was like if
he
you're
went
watching
down-
a big loyal dog get murdered.
Yeah.
You guys
but
want to hear
dude,
something super funny? My wife keeps texting me different like things about Red Rising.
Is she reading it now or something?
No, she's the one that introduced me to it, and
Oh,
she's
okay.
like done her second read through. So she's like, everyone does. The blues are XE for Xenon.
Oh,
She's
man.
just in the
Which
background
makes
like,
sense.
he
'cause
better fucking mention this.
if you're because I mean we see that like in our society kind of where like a lot of people's last names would be the profession where they were when they started giving family names to people.
Jeez,
Yeah.
what the fuck was my family doing?
Well, you know.
Yeah.
You're right.
Well,
so
I don't know
like,
if. Go ahead.
like this book has a lot of stuff like that. So like even the accents that are used are intentional for the Audible version, right?
Well, I mean, like
So
the thing is,
the
the
Reds have an
accent-
Irish accent on intentionally because the writer wanted to
Because they're red like potatoes.
yeah, he was
No.
influenced by the Irish immigration or immigrants
Yeah.
Okay.
into the United States, right? So
I'm trying to decide if that was a racist comment or not.
Well, I
Red
think
like
it's-
potatoes?
they're white. It's fine.
Yeah.
They're red potatoes. Okay, wait, going back. I was sad about when Pax died because they like for such a cool character that they build up. Like he just mentions like, you know, he was dying and Darrow understands that he knew what he was doing. He knew he was going to die saving him, but he still died with a smile on his face and that's like all they fucking gave this guy. And I was like,
So-
you son of a bitch.
You want to hear the story behind Pax's death? It was a like pretty much pick a name out of a hat. Someone had to die in that scene.
Oh shit!
So he put everyone's names except for Darrow and Mustang's name in there, and then pulled a name, and it was Pax. And he said he was very sad that he pulled Pax's name out because he had other stuff.
Oh my
Line
god!
for
Don't
him.
tell me
Form.
that.
God, that
Fucking
sucks
hell.
so much, dude, because
That
he
seems
was
very-
such a cool character.
Yeah,
That seems very lazy.
it's probably one of those things where he had like a really hard time, like
He probably had like multiple stories for multiple
for
different
multiple
characters.
characters.
And
yeah.
it prob-
but
it
he
probably
was
would've-
really
It probably would
would've
have hurt him
killed him no
equally,
matter who.
no matter
Yeah.
which one he picked.
I don't know. I don't know how much I trust this author, just because a lot of things felt very derivative. Like, I was worried that a lot of the theming of this book was very pro-fascist, because of because of Darrow's inability to actually critique anything in the world that was going on there. Like a lot of his stuff, he would praise the Reds constantly in terms of like their efficiency and all this kind of stuff. And like it seems like his only real beef is that they killed Io. And so it's like this guy
mean,
seems to be
Well, that's his motivation.
Yeah, like
so,
that. Like
that's
he-
like-
his motive.
so that goes back to
That's-
Darrow.
no, no.
Like Darrow's
but yeah, that's
prime motivation in life is Io. Right?
Yeah.
He loves Io more than Io loves him. Right. That was the whole thing.
like he knew
Like-
he was
and
gonna
that's-
get
that's kinda
executed
boring.
if he buried her
Like-
body.
Well, that's what
It's-
makes the
it's-
character going to be interesting is his development and growth and how he changes as the books go along.
right.
Right.
But in
Because
terms
he
of
finds
the single
motivation
book,
outside. Yeah. But this,
but in terms of
this
the
is
single
not
book,
meant
it's
to
very
be-
boring.
It's not meant to be, a single book to read. It's meant to be a series.
yeah.
You're supposed
Those-
to see the
I mean-
the character change.
Yeah.
Maybe
Why would
you
I
stop
give-
fucking trying to fine tune everything, Burger?
Yeah, god damn
Or
it.
else you're gonna get these
Are you
red
gonna start? Are you
hands,
gonna start
bro.
accusing the author of trying to be clever?
Just kidding.
Well, that's my problem is that I can't accuse him of really trying to be clever. It all feels very derivative. Like it's
So
Here's
like,
what I-
like,
here's-
even
I-
his views of Io change as the books go on.
Yeah.
Like
But here's-
everything,
here's
like his
something
life. changes.
thought
Well,
about.
no, okay, so I understand that, but I was so concerned with some of the theming from the book. Like I actually I went to look up an interview with this guy, and he seems kind of pompous to me. Watch him. He had
More pompous
I don't
than
know. I just
Rothfuss.
Bro, he's like
Yeah.
fucking
No,
gold, man. He's
this
better than you.
yeah, more pompous than Office. The interview started off. He was talking to Peter V. Brett, who wrote the Demon Cycle. Who is like I really enjoyed the books from that series.
Me too.
But like within you read the Demon Cycle anyway. Um, within
I love how he took himself away from his own segue.
listen, the
Say
Warden is
what?
a very good book, but this is kind of a side note.
I didn't
And,
like last book, but I enjoyed it.
I haven't read the last book just because I didn't like where the story was going so far.
It's going in the direction you're thinking it is. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All right, get to the point. I got shit I want to say. Fuck.
I did the interview, and like the first 2 minutes of the interview was like, I got a degree in political science and economics, and my whole theory of writing is that this theme has to match this part, and that also has to match this third part. So there's really like three things, and he's like critiquing like all of writing and like saying what's really important. And I'm not sure that this guy nailed down storytelling in this first book. The first book was in 2014. The interview was in 2018. Maybe he's come a long way, but he seemed very pompous to me, and I feel like because of how troubling these themes are, and he has this political science degree, and the way he uses sexual violence throughout the book, it seems like a very big question mark to me. What's going on here? Uh, like I wouldn't be offended reading any more books or read like I would want to read more books from this just to see if he's able to like redeem what's going on here, because it seems like there's definitely paths available, but it just feels like we didn't do enough to establish any real ideas other than blind rage.
Yeah, but that's like
I think that was
that's the
thing.
point of the first book is the
But
blind rage.
rage isn't interesting.
Seems
To
interesting
you.
for three of us,
Yeah.
I thought it was great.
right?
I guess I'm just looking. I wanted a little
But
bit more depth.
he does
Everything
grow-
felt very surface level.
He does grow from part 3 to part 4. Like from part 3 to part 4 is very interesting in aspect of like his leadership development as a leader, right? Because when he joins the institute, right, even through the testing, right, they sent him that video game. He's like, yeah, I enslaved the elves because I didn't like them, and then I won and whatever. And then he follows the rules of how the Golds do the institute, right? He enslaves the different houses and he rules. And then he allows, and this is where he starts to fall, he allows Cassius to have actual revenge instead of real justice and stuff like that. And then he gets turned on, and then him and Mustang survive, right? They have to survive. And then his view of how to like be a leader changes at that point, right? Instead of enslaving everyone, he starts realizing that I can't enslave these people. I need to give them purpose, and I need to give them drive, and they have to believe in me as a leader. And he makes sacrifices too. So like the moment with Tactus tries to rape one of the girls that they just captured or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Then he brings justice. He whips Tactus, and then he goes, "All right, now
It's my turn.
this is my fault. This is my fault that you did this because I wasn't a strong enough leader to set the appropriate view of things." And then he takes ownership of the failures of his subordinates.
I love
that is
I
huge
that part
growth as a
because
leader.
there's just that whole like, wait, what?
Yeah.
See, I don't
fucking moment
don't-
in the book. He's like, you want me to what?
Excuse me?
I don't really read that the same way, because he's still enslaving people. It's just that the
But he
tools
gives them
for the bondage
them-
is
but
He
different.
gives them purpose.
He
He's giving them a chance
he
to
enslaves
earn
them,
it, right?
yeah, and then he brings them out of it.
No. I'm not talking about the literal enslavement like with the banner. I'm saying that what he does is, instead of like doing everything by pure force, he tries to build a cult of personality. Like, he uses a different fascistic technique in order
He
to
becomes the
manipulate
Reaper.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, he becomes the
Becomes a
Reaper.
symbol,
he
right?
starts becoming a cult leader. And it's very dangerous the way that he's manipulating people. Like these are very dangerous themes, and it's still
Well, at the
things
same
that-
time, this character still has to play the system, And I think in his mind, he's still trying to do that.
I think his sole motivation is to win because he has to win.
Well, you have to
and
win.
he has
Yeah.
to kill the goals.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day,
And so-
that's his sole motivation is one, his rage, right? That's why he got chose for House Mars and all stuff, because he's like, right, he's just full of anger and he's only driven by Eo's dream. He's not really driven by anything
the
else.
Sons of Ares have other plans for him, but like they're using that one motivator that he has to get him where he needs to be.
Tilting a paradigm is the same thing as growth.
That I have questions for Chris about.
Well, it's going to be growth. Like I said, like this is just the first book, right? Like so then,
right? I understand that.
Yeah.
We're talking about this book and this book alone.
But he does grow within the book. It doesn't have to be like leaps and bounds of growth.
Okay, well, I mean, let's also talk about how much time
is change a paradigm.
How much time passes between the beginning of the book and the end of the book? It's about a year. I think it's about a year.
It's like 5 months.
No, it's more than that because he was like, there's a few months he was
like 6 months just being carved. Yeah,
just carving.
Yeah, he spent like 6 months being carved, and then he did the game for like 6 months. So it was like a year or something like that.
Yeah, and then how long were they in the game?
Like 6 months or so.
I felt like they were in the game.
Well, no, remember the apparently they control the weather in the game.
Or no, it was okay. So it was 1 month was the first marking point of the first rapey dude. I forgot his name.
Titus.
The red rapey dude, Titus. And then like 2 weeks later they kill Titus, and then I think it was like probably another 2 months to take down Mustang's house, and then that's when we start seeing betrayal happen. And then he was asleep for like 3 weeks from there. It's probably like 4 or 5 months.
So it's,
if I had to guess,
for a character for this, the character growth you're looking for, I'm not sure. For someone who was subjugated for as long as he was, I'm not sure that the kind of growth you're looking for is a possibility in a 2-year span.
Okay, maybe. My issue is that
the point, though, I felt like I have to go back to one point.
But the Sons of Ares?
Yes. When Eo died, I kind of like, I don't know, have this gut feeling like they set her. They set it up.
Definitely. They didn't set her up
so they could use him.
But
they already planned to use her as a motivator.
I don't know if they planned to use her, but they definitely took advantage of her attitude towards things. They definitely used her as a catalyst.
Did they use her?
I don't think Chris is going to spoil anything for you for future.
Motherfucker.
But I mean, like, I don't see it as growth, like what Chris is saying. I see it as he realized that his original tactic didn't work, and so now he has to change the paradigm because he's in a disadvantageous position. So he can't do what he did before. Also, what he did before wasn't really working, and so he understood that, and so he just decided to play the game differently. I don't think that he is a person. I don't think that there's anything sufficient enough that we could say throughout this first book where he as a person has changed or anything like that. He's still,
he's still
praising.
Angry.
He's definitely changing, though.
He's still praising he's still praising all of these gold people throughout the whole period of time. And it's just sort of like he's kind of one note to me. It's just like one of those things that's struggling. Everything else that's happening in the world is kind of interesting, like what's going on with the society. But he's just a one note of rage that just kind of goes through the story.
Well, I mean, wasn't Ares supposed to be a relatively angry god?
I don't know.
I mean,
he was a god.
We have to remember, like that's the Sons of Ares are using him for his rage. Like, he knows he's used as a weapon, right? Like that's the point.
All that other stuff is interesting. Our main character Darrow is kind of flat
for now.
Sure, but we're only talking about this book.
Yeah. No, right? I mean, I could see where you're coming from. I don't think he's that flat because I just don't think he's that flat. Yeah.
I think they knew what they were going with him. He's angry. Hey, this injustice befell him, and you know what? Now he's pissed, and now he's got to go get his revenge. And you know what? Sons of Ares is going to push him in that direction.
And you can see him trying to control his anger at the same time. Like apparently, he had a couple of opportunities to go after the Augustus guy, and he didn't do it.
Yeah. They know he's angry.
And of course, his interaction with the
I
golds,
get
right?
it,
Like toward the end, like especially with Mustang and Severo, and he's realizing maybe not all the golds are bad. Kind of view, right? Like he's
like even the golds,
even
the golds have issues
levels,
with the higher
right?
level, yeah,
right. Because even like during the institution, there's the high drafts and the mid drafts and the
there's
low
the
draft,
bronze
right?
and all that shit,
right. So like he's starting to he's new to that world, right? So he's still coming into this world as a red with the context of there's golds. And
he's going from the bottom rung all the way to the top rung.
So he's still learning of what the society is pretty much, and he's building new relationships because his previous relationships were only like reds within his tribe, his clan and family and stuff. So now he's like interacting. He's like just tossing him in the lake essentially, and like, all right, see what's out there. And I think that's part of his like him slowly learning and building trust and having to build trust with golds, people he hates. On top of that, right? Because Titus is a red. And he burnt out so quickly on his rage.
Yeah.
So let's talk about did anybody else get that kind of medieval aspect to the game?
I think that was the point. So like this first book has a very has like a YA edge to it, right? Right. And that's why right. That's why
society, if you're like when I'm listening to it, it's all this is just feudal lordship squabbling. Like
I think of it.
There's several great houses. It's those great houses have sub houses that follow them. It's like a very condensed Game of Thrones kind of thing. Like, oh, okay, these people are loyal to these people. These people control this stuff.
I think another thing about it is the fact that these are all golds, and the majority of them are high golds and like mid golds. So they've all grown up with a silver spoon in their mouths, and then the whole
gold spoon in their mouth, dumbass.
No, remember they have silvers that are basically servants to them.
It's an obsidian spoon, you fucks.
Yeah, why would they use a silver spoon? They're golds. They wouldn't use some poor person's spoon.
God.
Anyway,
Andy.
Hey, well, what about the iron golds? They mix in with other metals.
Like I said, even golds have their own thing too within their own color.
But
right?
what I was saying is that they grow up, with all this. Things are just being fed to them, and then they're thrown into this game, and they're just basically taken out of their element. And I think the whole goal was for the proctors and the sponsors, etc., for them to see who can adapt the best in the situation and come out on top, while also trying to whittle out the people who do it in kind of a way that they don't agree with.
Well, institution's part of like their eugenics program.
Yeah.
Essentially, right? Mm-hmm. They're trying to get rid of the weak golds and keep the stronger ones and find out who are the most ruthless and potential leaders, and then that's how they get their apprenticeships and stuff like that, right?
I definitely didn't see the culling coming.
Yeah.
The culling, I was like, oh shit. That's shit.
I liked it.
Yeah, it's just part of the whole eugenics. Like the other books like dive deeper into
the whole eugenics
just
society.
I kind of wonder, considering the jackal was not a physical specimen, I wonder, like, did they just kind of say he killed someone, but he didn't actually kill anyone, considering his dad was basically buying everyone off?
What do you mean he wasn't a physical specimen?
He was more of a thinker. He was a thinker. That's why he was so willing to cut off his hand. He's like, I don't use my hands. I don't give a shit. It's like, I use my head.
I mean,
he ain't need these hands to give you these hands.
If you're some like sort of eugenics human perfectionist theory, saying that your mind is the greatest weapon there, he could be technically, because of his mind, he could be the best specimen there. If it wasn't for Darrow, I guess. Like I don't know. I feel the jackal was kind of underwhelming.
Darrow's dumbass still fucking outsmarted him.
I mean, I just feel like he was very underwhelming. Like, we keep building him up, and then he gets found out right away. I don't know. It's just like...
Pax! Ow, Telemanas!
Yeah.
He was the real main character.
Sure.
Severo
was great.
He's
Sevro's
fantastic.
character building
And that
is really great.
that
You
reveal
shitting the
that
cup?
his dad was the other guy. What was his
Fitchner?
Fitchner, yeah. I was like, oh shit, that kind of
Yeah, that was-
That makes sense.
That was a surprising thing. That was like the one thing that didn't seem predictable. Like even the non-betrayal by Mustang was
Mhm.
very predictable.
Yeah,
could have gone either way for me.
he could have because it's his brother.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't think so.
Hell.
I think as soon as Cassius didn't like as soon as those two didn't reconcile, it was 100% that Mustang was going to be fine. Because of the
Yeah.
like, the
So
way-
where the fuck was Cassius again? I kind of forgot. Where the fuck was he?
He was
After
that,
he was
Um,
under siege by Pluto.
Yeah.
So the whole time he's just fighting fucking over here.
Yeah.
Well, he conquered most of whatever their south area or no, their north area, I guess. And then they got into and then Pluto conquered everything except for like the two houses that the Proctors were essentially
Apollo and
feeding.
Jupiter.
Jupiter. Yeah. And so like there's nothing better to do at this point than to march on the only real enemy that you have left. And so they had been throughout the whole period of the winter, they were just sieging House Mars, basically, is what it sounds like.
So he was just fucking.
Well, at the same time, the person who was leading House Mars and the person leading House Pluto were their families are enemies.
Yeah, as well as
There's a lot of bad
what's her
blood everywhere.
face?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's her face? I think they mentioned that what's her face betrayed them at some point to go do something.
What's her fucking name? I think it starts with
I
an
want to say it
A.
starts with like a P. No, I don't know.
The other chick from House Mars.
Yeah, she was doing some things. So there was a lot of internal strife that kept them sort of in place. Like all of our antagonists are sort of nebulous throughout this book. They aren't really things that exist until they're very convenient until Darrow's ready to go fight them. We're never really caught off guard by the
Antonia.
movements of anybody. Antonia, thank you.
Antonia, yeah.
And we're never really caught off guard by anything that happens here. Everything's sort of predictable. It's supposed to be a surprise that the jackals in like in House Jupiter or whatever. But that's because our character's ready for it at this point. It's the plot has like we have sufficiently developed what's going on long enough for us to move to the end.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Did they ever mention the fact that after they killed the bear, because the wolf guys were always wearing those wolf heads, did they give the bear head to Pax?
Yeah, because they couldn't.
He was so
They
big?
couldn't.
Yes.
They couldn't find a wolf big enough.
They
for
finally
him.
sent us something big enough for
Yeah.
Max.
Ha 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 ha. I'm just a dental giant. Would you like a
I'm
peanut?
gonna stab.
Wasn't he
I'm gonna
described
stab
as being
Hollow in the
like?
eye or something.
Wasn't he described as being like almost 3 meters tall or some shit like that?
Yeah, he was like,
Yeah.
He would get
What does he
confused as
say?
an obsidian.
yeah, he was
You
like
guys haven't.
seven.
You guys haven't been properly introduced to obsidians yet.
Well, he mentioned. He mentioned.
7'5".
He used to play around with obsidians, and he met this one Helga.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
obsidians are great.
he's 7'4" and built like an obsidian.
They're great.
X. So sad.
Spoilers: you get to meet the rest of the Telemanus family.
Are they all like huge
Oh,
specimens
dude, I
as
hope
well?
they're all just fucking giants.
Do they all just
Oh,
shout
wow.
their
Like, I
Okay.
guess
names?
on his
Do they all
I
shout
wanted
their
mother's
names?
side, they're like Pacific Islander or
Oh,
something.
I'm just gonna be a dick, but I won't tell you anything.
Yeah. I just get them hyped. I'm gonna get them
I'm making
hyped.
sure.
No, I'm excited to talk about, like, find out more about Pax, even though he's dead, because he was such a dude. He was that gentle giant.
Yeah.
He was honorable.
When they
he was a
tackle
good
him?
dude.
When they tackle him,
Dude,
they remove the mark, and he just starts
Was he
laughing.
honorable?
I'm
Yeah, dude.
free.
Yeah, I'm free. Like, he was just he was just in this for a game. Like, he was just having fun.
Yeah,
Like,
I
oh,
mean, I
shit's
I
going
would
south.
hesitate to
That's
call
fine.
him honorable. I don't think I would call him honorable because he was the
His
biggest
dad- his-
bully.
His death was
In-
honorable to me.
he
or
was
felt
honorable in that he was
Okay.
super loyal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, he's still like the biggest bully in House Ceres before he started following the wolf, I guess. Or not
I
the
think
wolf,
House Ceres. I think he accepted in House Ceres that he wasn't a leader, but he's definitely brawn that they can use, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna fall into the place that I fit best in."
This is my role.
Yeah.
Which is running into the front lines and swinging my axe into 30 guys and decimating the battlefield.
Yeah.
I know my
Well,
place.
he even picked up a guy and used him as a blown weapon. He's like, I'm gonna hit a motherfucker with another motherfucker.
Oh, fuck, I got no weapon. Leg. Like, he knew what he was good at, and he excelled at it. Like, it just was like,
found his forte, went with it.
What do you? What makes you qualified for this position? Well, I once lost my weapon, and I used a guy
as a weapon,
via his leg, as a weapon. Yeah, we're gonna put you on the front line, sir.
And I won. Is there anything else to discuss? Anything you want to bring up, Chris, since you have read this multiple times now?
It's my second time.
It's still a multiple.
Yeah.
I'm excited for Pax's backstory. Cervero. What was the sister's name? Mustang.
Virginia.
What was her name?
Virginia.
Yeah, Virginia, and the toil with now he's the apprentice of Fuckhead's dad. I'm excited to see where those ties go. Yeah, Augustus. That's what I'm most excited for.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna.
Burger's not excited.
The following books are just more.
I have to.
I never said I wasn't excited.
Real quick, at the beginning when he enters into the Institute, who was the guy who gave the speech? Was it Augustus?
Is Adrius? Not Adrius. It was Augustus, though. Yeah.
Okay, so it was kind of interesting because he's talking about how you shouldn't. Our constant battle is not to become complacent or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, he turns around, he's just trying to buy his son's way through the Institute.
Yeah, I mean, the whole point of the
like
goal
such a
is
hypocrite.
this facade, right? Like, they just this front of order and control, right? But
I was just kind of hoping that, like, you'd see, like, more honest golds, running the Institute. There are there, but yeah, it's just I fucking loved it when Apollo just bit the dust.
Hey, is everybody? I get the sense because who was the guy that was there when they murdered Io? Or
I think it was Augustus.
Yeah, it was.
Was it Augustus?
The Arch-Governor, yeah.
So because of whenever Darrow first lays eyes on him to the ending, where I feel like he's an old man, but then again, like it feels like everybody in the society is young.
Well, the golds get tuned up.
Yeah,
relatively young.
Everybody's 18, 19 years old in this book.
Well, he's talking about like Augustus. Augustus is definitely
like even Augustus seems like he's young.
Like 18,
about his beautiful muscles and his hair when they first see him when he executes Io.
Well, I mean, got to keep up appearances, man.
He's the Arch-Governor. He's a high gold.
He's going to be on the. He's going to be on the HC. He's got to pretty
out.
He's one of the most powerful
man
in the society. So yeah, he runs Mars.
If you remember when he was talking to the Mars Proctor, he was even talking about like, hey man, what's all this bullshit? Like why is all this stuff happening? And it's like, oh, and it's like it seems like you're kind of poor. Is that why you eat those metabolizer things instead of just having the cutters make you ripped and swole?
Oh yeah, that's true.
Because he's basically, I think what they called them bronzes. The lower golds were called bronzes.
It seems weird because he's supposed to be peerless scarred, right? Because he
survived the Institute.
Yeah, he survived the Institute, but it doesn't necessarily mean that he was one of the remember, there was multiple students, so like the top ones definitely get really good appointments, but the ones in the bottom, they get doors open for them, but like they're not like the doors that everyone wants.
They're not running fleets, right?
Yeah.
They're not governors and stuff like that, right? The low drafts.
But it's still probably better if you want to, I guess, increase the value of your family name and lay it down for other generations that you got to work your way up.
Yeah, I don't know if you become peerless if you make it through the Institute, but you're a slave through the Institute. Does that make sense?
I think you've
read all the books and you don't know that?
I can't remember. It's been a while.
Oh.
He also did all the books in a 2-week period.
Yeah.
Kind of all starts to muddle together at that point.
Yeah.
Gross, Chris. Gross.
Yeah, I love the books. They're great.
So
They're fun.
obviously,
the characters
I
are
enjoyed
fun.
it.
I think the writing is
Obviously-
fun. Like just a lot of the banter, even if the banter doesn't like matter, like just some of the conversations they have with each other is just funny.
Or even if it's not completely accurate to Burger's liking.
Right.
Yeah.
It was great.
Like I found it very,
What was
very
it
entertaining.
so much that I don't know what you mean by that?
Because you
I know
just
what you mean by
pick
that, Nate.
everything. No, you just have your own way of liking books. So you pick the small details. Whereas like me, I'm a dumbass. I read the book and I'm just like, yo, that was a cool book. You know?
So
you look more into the depth and the all the things where I just liked it for what
I think
I liked it for what
the
it was.
book I kind of want to recommend. I think Burger might actually like, since he likes to nitpick all these things. But Chris, it's kind of a long book. I don't know if you want to do it. I think. Hold on, Chris, you're frozen.
Yeah, you're frozen, buddy.
Rest in peace, Chris.
Barely. You're cutting in and out, man.
Yeah.
Nope.
No, you're just gone. You're a robot.
Robot. Close your video, but stay in the chat and then try opening it up again.
I don't know. I won't say I like the book. The book was entertaining. I felt like a lot of the things happening in the book were very solid. The biggest problem that I have is that when we look at the sum of all of the pieces of this book, there are some pretty big gaps missing that make it hard for me to say yeah, I would recommend this to you. It's more like I enjoyed it, but I need more before I can actually say
Yeah.
go read this series or anything like that.
Chris, what was it you were trying to say before we had to drop out?
I can't remember.
Okay.
Oh no, it was a book that you were going to recommend.
Oh
or
yeah,
something
so
like
there was a book I wanted to recommend, but it's a fairly long. It's like 35 hours. But it's hard sci-fi, so that's why I don't know if Chris will enjoy it. I definitely don't know if you're going to enjoy it, Nate. But I think Burger would enjoy it.
Doesn't matter.
Okay,
Right.
just get to it. Just say it.
7 Eves.
I haven't heard of it. I don't know. Maybe.
So I would recommend the book. We know Chris would recommend the book, and we know Nate would recommend the book. I think Burger, you said much earlier in the episode that you wouldn't recommend it.
I don't think I could recommend it as is without reading more of it. This first book, I think, like I said, is just missing some big pieces in order for it to sort of be a concise narrative. It was very fun. I enjoyed the ride. There's just a lot of things that I feel like at some point we should have stopped and addressed them before we just kept going on this one-way rail, because it felt like our destination was predetermined and nothing that was happening in the story truly meant anything.
All right. Anything else to add in before we do a roll?
No, I'm glad. I'm glad.
Facts.
I'm glad at least everyone enjoyed it.
Calamanas.
At least everyone enjoyed the book. That's what
Yeah.
at least even Burger.
Yeah.
People enjoyed it. I'm glad. That makes me happy more than anything else. As long as you enjoy it, it was
As long as it wasn't as bad as Magic 2.0.
Magic 2.0 was great.
It was a piece
Yeah,
of
coming
shit.
from that,
I enjoyed that book for the
Listen, your opinion on that book
because
was
you were high on
as a
edibles.
kite. Yeah.
for the camp that it was. Right. It's like a Bill and Ted adventure movie, right? I felt like
but
that
Bill and
was what that
Ted
book was.
was done competently though. It was just very silly. It was designed to be silly.
Yeah. I'm glad everyone enjoyed Red Rising. It makes me happy. So let's get into what is going to be the next book. I'm out on selection.
So it's going to be a 3-sided die
Why 3-sided?
because Chris is not selection available because he picked this one. So it's just going to be myself.
Are you?
It's going to be
you're
myself.
included? We haven't gone through the whole group yet.
I
thought we were going through everyone.
Nah, it's just a die. It's not random.
So wait,
I don't care if somebody
who
gets
selected
it
what then? Who did Dune?
Well, Dune
Nobody.
Dune was technically your recommendation, or you're the one who mentioned it that we all kind of just agreed to it.
Oh, democracy.
Yeah.
Democracy.
I was just-
The noble lie.
Yeah.
Not
That's the thing. That's the thing that bothered me is that they never really addressed that. Our main character's just like, oh yeah, fuck democracy, and it's
Well,
like, wait, I think
he doesn't know any better. You got to understand, like, he just doesn't know any
yeah,
better.
but we never. Yeah, that's the thing. It's just like, oh, everything in this book seems to be yay fascism. Anyway,
You got
okay. Well, so
done reviewing the
they
book.
want to break the chains. At the same time,
okay. So
right?
here's the thing. Now we have to kind of determine how we're going to do this. If we're doing it, you're eliminated because you've already made a selection, then it's different. Or are we doing it where it's just the last person selected is removed from the round?
Going off of what Burger said, I thought maybe the rolling that we initially do determines the rotation path.
that's what I thought we were doing. So like now it'll always be Andy, Chris, and then whoever wins this one, and then whoever wins that one, and then we'll just do that in a circle.
All right,
Yeah,
so we'll
you pick another shitty book right away.
Okay, so we'll do two-sided die then. Burger, you'll be 1. Nate, you're 2.
I'd rather
We're
you
gonna
just flip
choose
a
the same
coin.
fucking book.
What's that?
we're gonna choose the same fucking book.
Are we? Because one, the result is 2, and the other thing is I don't think Burger was going to choose the second book for Red Rising.
No, not the second book. We're gonna choose the same book. I know what book he's gonna choose because I was gonna choose it.
What book was I going to choose?
The Blade itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
well then, hold on.
I'm very excited about
if there's
that.
an agreement,
oh my God.
hold on. If there's an agreement,
I just came. Oh my God.
Well, here's the thing. Predetermined rules stated that if there was an agreement or 2 doubles, it gets disqualified, so it goes to a round robin between the other 2.
You're fucking
Shut
kidding
your
me.
poor mouth.
You shut up. I really want to fucking read this book, you son of a bitch.
Well, I'm sorry. You should have paid attention to the rules.
Andy's
where the fuck are they written down?
Okay,
well, you should have been here for the intro.
My son, remember the.
All right. So what's the book? What's the book? It's the what's it called?
The Blade.
The Blade itself by Joe Abercrombie, Lord Grimdark himself. This is a high fantasy / grimdark series.
Oh my God, this is gonna suck so much ass.
Oh, it's so good. This is sort of considered the one of. This book sort of defines what grimdark is, where there's no good people. Everybody's sort of ambiguous, but you still have like people that you're rooting for the whole time.
I'm probably gonna like
very
this
enjoyable.
I'm probably gonna like this a lot.
Just 22 hours. Can you give us a brief synopsis?
It's been a while since I've read the first book. Basically, we're gonna find some people who are going to go on a sort of quest. They kind of form a band. You have like a wizard, and you have like sort of like a berserker warrior guy who has probably one of the best catchphrases ever, in that you can never have too many knives. And fucking shit happens.
Fucking shit, man.
Oh, it's so good. I really enjoyed this series when I first read it. I'm very happy with you, Nate. You are my favorite.
I've been very excited to read this next, and so I was hoping either you and I would get it because I knew we were going to choose it, because I looked into it and I was like, I think I'm going to fucking like this book.
22 hours, 15 minutes.
Yeah, so I don't know for you guys if this is going to be too long at 22 hours. There is a very definitive part 1 and part 2, so we can split it up if that's something that you want to do. I know this is an 8 book, but I was researching. This was going to be my book basically, no matter.
We
what.
have 2 weeks. We should be able to accomplish it.
You mean Dune was 20 something hours?
Yeah, but I honestly don't know why we chose to do Dune in 2 parts.
Okay, well,
we could have done
we
it.
Didn't want to burden anybody. I think we just tried to like pace ourselves for the first series.
Yeah, because we didn't want to like
Stephen Spacey or Stephen Pacey. What?
That's the narrator.
That's the narrator.
That's the guy who narrates it. But for some reason, that name sounds familiar.
Because it sounds like Kevin Spacey.
Have you read The Lies of Locke Lamora?
I have.
Is it good?
The first book is absolutely fucking amazing. One of like the best books ever. The second book pissed me the fuck off. And then I really like the third book.
So the second book's probably fine.
Yeah, we'll do the second book then.
I take whatever
so-
his number is, and I like cut it in half.
Yeah.
My issue is that like the first half of the second book is basically a heist movie, and then they interrupt it to go do something else, and then they eventually come back.
Yeah,
and I'm
my
really
friend,
unhappy that they
my
interrupted.
friend kind of described it as kind of like Ocean's 11, but like not in a modern era.
Yeah, so like none of the characters are magic, but they live
Wait,
in
hold
a
on.
world where magic
Are we going to end the
exists.
podcast now, or are we going to keep talking through it?
Did you
keep talking, bro?
what is? I'm assuming that basically the kind of the setting for this book, the Blade itself, is kind of like a medieval fantasy type era.
It's high
Viking, yeah.
fantasy.
But like,
is
well, I
it
mean,
Nordic?
there can be high fantasy in
Yeah,
a
it's very
contemporary
Viking-y,
environment.
Very Northern European.
Okay,
I get a very Nordic Viking sense. To
okay,
it.
that's what I wanted to kind of get.
And I'm very excited about Nords and like Vikings and magic. That's why I'm excited about this.
Yeah, it's
magic.
very interesting. The heavy Nordic Viking side, I think, really comes into play in books 2 and 3. Our first book,
Okay,
it mostly focuses on some
well, we'll
different group of people.
go ahead and end it there then.
All right, I'm excited.